just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your host, Ian Dawson-Mackay. Today's guest is BJ Gaddour. BJ is the host of the weekly BJ podcast, a former fat guy who turned cover model and fitness director for the entire men's health brand. He now runs thedailybj.com, not a porn site, where he delivers world-class workouts and deep dives onto a wide variety of fitness topics. In this interview, we discuss his story, how you can build fitness into your life by making your own body your own barbell, the key principles and philosophies you need to follow, and what BJ stands for, and how it wasn't always the most helpful nickname he could have been given. But before we get into that, a quick word about our affiliates. I've managed to build up some great relationships with some awesome companies. This allows me to obtain some special discount codes, deals and listener exclusives. So for more information, please go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates for further information. Particularly loving HelloFresh. They provide all the fresh, pre-portioned ingredients you need to cook delicious weekly recipes straight to your door, which is easy. Another is the Barbell Apparel jeans that feel so comfy but show off your muscle gains in all the right places. And the Muscle Food steaks I've just bought. They're quality meat for an awesome price. They're healthy but super tasty. For these and so much more, please go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. And now to the interview with BJ Gaddour. Hope you enjoy. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. But if we met in a bar, a gym, or whatever, and you had to tell somebody what you did in 30 seconds, how would you describe who you are and why you're so well known?
Well, I guess I get paid to lift. One of the biggest things I wanted to do when I was in college at Amherst College, my senior year, 2005, 2004, around that time, I was a double major in economics and sociology, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to pursue those outlets, and I asked myself, what would I want to do every single day? Like, what is my pulse? And everything came back to, I had to first get that workout in if that day was going to be a good day. So, ultimately, my entire journey has been focused around helping other people, inspiring people to get fit, but also finding a way to basically fund my passion for exercise so I can keep doing it every day and keep getting better and kind of have that built-in accountability.
So if we take this right back to little baby BJ, was it a turning point that made you want to start getting into shape? I read somewhere that you were a fat kid, and I was thinking, you're sitting with a massive six-pack, built like a brick shithouse, basically. Were you ever out of shape? Did you come out the womb?
Yeah. Yeah, I was mostly so I'm only 35 right now. So I still, most of my life, percentage wise, more than half of it was, out of shape or kind of, I was a fat kid. So I was always the heavier kid in school. They called me Thunder Thighs, even when, I didn't have very muscular legs, just because I was just a thicker kid and, generally a bigger kid. And, I couldn't do a pull-up. I couldn't finish the mile sometimes, and we tested that in gym class. So, and I was always involved in sport, and, being bigger, I was able to do well in a lot of sports like football and basketball. But, in terms of fitness or, being attractive to people physically, that was something that just wasn't in the cards for me growing up. So even to this day, I don't feel comfortable with my shirt off. I hate doing it. I have to do some shirtless stuff just as part of the gig that I do, but it's my least favorite thing to do, and I just don't feel comfortable. Probably will never feel fully comfortable in my skin because of what it was like kind of being made fun of as a fat kid. And, it's just so funny to me too, because, I joke all the time, I wish I had the confidence of Europeans at a beach. There's so many dudes, huge bellies. The belly's literally hanging over their swimsuit and they're wearing thongs or they're wearing the European cuts, and I'm like, I train every day for the most part. I eat very well, and like I just couldn't do that. So it's like and it's funny. So if you grow up in shape or not fat, even if you get fatter later in your life, you still have the confidence that you had in your youth, especially with guys. Like women are different. Women, the studies show women judge themselves more harshly, and guys tend to think more highly of themselves. But if you grew up fat, you always kind of, no matter how good you end up looking or how much better you look, you still will never have the confidence of someone who was like the dude or the girl or whatever in high school. So it's just funny how that works. And, so it's a journey, man.
Yeah, I mean, would you think you'd have gone into this kind of industry if you hadn't been a bigger kid while you were younger? Because, I mean, I'm still the fat kid now, but, you seem to be so well suited for that industry. Do you think you're always kind of predetermined to go into this kind of, like helping people get into shape and transform themselves?
Well, I was always into sports, very active. I was a big fan of like Mike Tyson, all the Michaels, by the way. Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, growing up kind of in the 80s, 90s. And so I was always active. I enjoyed it. And my main issues really revolved around food. Food was something that was meant to show love in my family. It became a comfort thing. When I was excited, we celebrated with food. When I didn't feel well, we used food to make myself feel better. It really became almost, and still to this day, like I joke, if there was going to be my autobiography would be entitled Between Meals, because still to this day, like everything revolves around, like my wife and I will be eating lunch and we'll be talking about what's for dinner. She also grew up, she had some issues with her weight, early on in her formative years as well. So we relate to each other very well with that. But so, and they often say like, some of the best coaches, they sucked as players. And they say if you can't play, you coach. So part of the issue, too, when I was an athlete, I played football in college, and I had 4 knee surgeries by the time I was 22. So my career never really reached its potential, and it scarred me in a lot of ways. I still haven't even gone back to my old college because I just have bad feelings associated with the injuries and not reaching the potential I worked so hard to achieve. And not that I was going to make it to the NFL or anything, but, it was very important to me at the time. That was my identity as a football player. I'd been playing since I was 14. So, being overweight and knowing what that's like growing up, and for people to kind of look at you like you're disgusting and not give you the time of day. And then also having all those injuries because I not for no lack of effort, is because I trained too hard and I didn't care about my body enough to do things the right way, and I was just trying to get as big and strong as possible, and it broke me down to the point where I was 22 years old, and the doctor told me, like, you've got the knees of an 80-year-old in terms of cartilage damage. And so for me, the passion comes from helping other people deal with those issues or never have to deal with them in the first place, and they've affected me in a way that, obviously has scarred me, but also opened up a career path for me where I can really help others and have that empathy that a lot of people in fitness don't have. I'm not saying you have to be fat or to have blown out your knee to be a good trainer or coach, but it certainly helps to have that perspective when you have been on both sides of the spectrum, totally out of shape, overweight, super fit and shredded and everything in between. There's a relatability that I think I'm kind of more naturally suited for than someone who was always like the best athlete, always shredded, everybody always wanted to be around them. That really wasn't my life story. So
no, I mean, and that's the way you come across. You come across as somebody who's warm, friendly, humble, who wants to truly help people. You're not one of these guys that you see it's just about the brand, just about the look. You seem to be a genuinely awesome guy. So, like, when you were growing up, something I always loved was looking at, like, film characters and how I could be like them, and work out like them or act like them. Who did you look up to when you were younger? Was there a particular film? Was there a TV show? Was there something like Arnie or something along those lines?
Well, I'm biased because I grew up, I was born in 82, so I grew up an 80s and 90s kid. And I grew up in kind of the revolution of fitness as we knew it. Like fitness wasn't even really a thing. There was bodybuilding, but, in terms of like the gym and there actually being a person you can hire to give you a workout and train you like that started in the 80s. So, and then there was, Arnold and Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I'll even throw Steven Seagal in there because he's, he's one of my favorite guys to, classic, action actor, good and bad, I guess. But, like if you ask me my favorite movie, it'd be like Rocky 1 through 7. I love Rockies. Like all the Rockies, I would watch them and get so inspired. And, you see these physiques on Stallone and Arnold. And I was also big into wrestling. I loved the WWF, which it was called at the time. And as a bigger, I was a stronger kid, even though like I couldn't do a pull up. It was because I was fat, which is hard to do a pull up. So I had an inclination for things that involved, strength and expressing it, and was really inspired by all that stuff, So, and it's actually really fun now that Creed, the new franchise version of Rocky, came out, and they're making another one, and just to see how that whole thing went full circle and how it's, even today now it's resonating with the younger generations, and it's still great for people like me that grew up on the Rockies. And so I really grew up in a unique time. And with that coming into the 90s, like supplements became a thing, and to see how much fitness has evolved. And I know a lot of times people will reference like the book Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, where it's really everything is about timing, right? And I was lucky to grow up in a time where fitness was kind of in its infancy, and now it's kind of culminated in its evolution of being a couple decades of really a thing, with the fusion of now everything being digital and, social media, where all this experience and all the trends have allowed me to be someone that could have a big impact at this particular time in the world. And maybe not 10 years ago or 20 years ago, if I was born, earlier, or if I was born later, maybe I would have missed this unique time to have a presence. Who knows? But I'm grateful that I have the ability to, wake up every day, try to get a little bit better, and then find ways in which I can distill that information and help others do the same.
And do you think is that a problem nowadays, that there is all these options, all these fad diets, the information which a coach would normally give to somebody is so readily available now, that people aren't getting the proper training? And, have we made it so that everybody can access fitness, but not everybody can learn the form, the true, how to do it properly?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are so many options, right? Like, there are no barriers to entry anymore, which again, the good with the bad. Or the good is that if you really know what you're doing and you've got the experience, like within a week, you could have all your key social media accounts set up. Probably within a month, you could have a website up, and you could be making money sharing fitness or using your platform and building it up, and then, maybe selling ad space or whatever. Like the careers in fitness are kind of almost infinite now, but at the same time, with all that comes with the risk of like someone just being an expert because they look a certain way, but having absolutely no idea what they're doing. Literally just walking into it as like a good looking person who's lean and naturally genetically gifted, but has absolutely no idea how to train someone, especially someone that doesn't have those same gifts. And then with that too, because of all the options and no barrier to entry, you've got still, the fitness consumer has become a lot more educated. I think most people probably realize at this point the shake weight is not really a legitimate training tool, though I will argue, if we go off the theory of progressive overload, if you used a heavier shake weight, you could probably get some gains. But that's besides the point, or that, waist trainers or vibrating your belly isn't going to result in a six-pack.
Oh, well, I'll send it back then.
Yeah, well, hey, if you can send it to me, because I could still probably find a use for it. But so I think we become more educated at the same time, not educated enough to really to distinguish between, this person's offering, that person's offering, and everybody has a different way of doing things too. But I definitely feel for that average Joe, average Jane fitness consumer who, knows that fitness is important, maybe doesn't know a whole lot, maybe was an athlete in the past or did some training with a trainer or was in a boot camp before or dabbled in CrossFit, but like they've got no idea what the fuck to do for them. Like there's so many options. Which one should I do? And they, people hop from program to program, from trainer to trainer. And I think because people are not approaching it as a lifestyle, it's literally going from program to program or, 6-week transformation to 6-week transformation. They never establish the habits that are what fitness is built upon, which is consistency. Like the most important thing I try to share with people is that I have made every mistake along the way. I've injured almost every part of my body. I lost the weight and gained more of it back and everything in between, but I have not missed a week of training since I was 14. So we're talking about simplifying things for the average consumer. It really doesn't matter what you do as long as you're consistent with it and you enjoy it. Obviously, there are better options. If the goal was to look your best and get the most amount of muscle and least amount of body fat and perform better and have more energy, there are certainly good programs and bad programs, but a bad program that is followed consistently with no layoffs, that is part of your life, will always outperform the best, most world-class program you do for 6 weeks and then stop. So I think it all starts there. Everybody's got a different exercise personality. You can't just do something you always enjoy, right? There has to be some work into it, and there has to be a little bit of struggle and discomfort. But for the most part, if you can just find something that you relatively enjoy, or you don't hate that much, that keeps you moving, that you can do consistently, that's sustainable, that will always outperform anything else, no matter how great the trainer is or how great the system is. And I think it all starts there. The consistency part of it is really where people that struggle just can't seem to figure out.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? You get these guys who say, like the coach who wants to coach everybody the same way, regardless of your body composition, how you look, your history, what you've done before. It's always 3 sets of 10, do this, this, this. And you're like, no, it can't work for everybody. Like if I said to 4 different people, what's your idea of fitness? One person might say just being able to go up the stairs. One person might say spending, I need to spend hours in the gym to get fit. And, it's such a wide-ranging thing. So how do you work with somebody to find out their goals and start them on this kind of path?
Well, so I don't do any personal training anymore because my main passion has been finding ways to create workouts that, frankly, anyone can do. Now, what comes with the programs I make is the scalability. Anybody can do that workout, but maybe you're using a regressed form of that particular exercise, or you're taking a little more rest, or you're not doing as many total rounds of that circuit. But my passion has been finding ways to make fitness accessible. Like I was lucky to get financial aid to go to really good schools growing up, but I could never afford a trainer to give me a strength program or teach me how to do things. And so I love sharing free information, helping other people kind of figure this out for themselves. And my great challenge, when I'm creating a workout, I'm always thinking about all the people I've worked with in the past and all the people that, I might want to work with in the future. I try to follow, I have a website called thedailybj.com, and I try to follow all the people that are members on Instagram and see what they're doing and see what they look like. And they'll post, their movements sometimes. And it just really helps me get a mind's eye for the vast array of individuals I'm trying to serve, because what I know from all my experience and from, the 2 years, the 7 years I consulted to Men's Health and the 2 years I was their fitness director, the typical guy and gal, because Men's Health actually has a pretty good female following, believe it or not, like 20% or more of the subscribers are female. People mostly have about 30 to 45 minutes to exercise. They can ideally get at least 2 or 3 workouts a week if they're consistent with it. They prefer to have access to minimal equipment workouts, dumbbells, an adjustable bench, maybe a pull-up bar. Even the moment you go to a pull-up bar, it becomes a program that isn't very accessible. to the masses because that's an extra thing you have to worry about. Maybe a mini band, maybe a resistance band, possibly a kettlebell. Real high-end people might have a TRX, but for the most part, minimal equipment stuff that you can do at home or take to the gym. So my passion, even though I love using the latest and greatest tools, and I've built a home gym for myself that it's kind of been a dream. I can't make workouts for people that have that equipment. So it's all about finding the lowest common denominator of ways in which anyone can access this workout, and it can be as hard as it needs to be without being too hard or too overwhelming for that person. And obviously, I break down programs to ones that have more of a shred or fat loss focus to ones that have more of a gains, muscle building focus. But I mean, the real challenge, some people would say, oh, that workout's so simple. It's I don't think you get it. The brilliance is in the simplicity. This is a workout that anybody can do. And, those workouts are not easy to make. You can go anywhere and find a super advanced workout with, complex training and contrast training and drop sets and, stuff that only probably a drug using bodybuilder could even attempt. But that's not going to help the average person who really is just looking for fitness to enhance what they're currently doing in some way. They want to be leaner. They want to have more energy. They want to be more mobile. They want to be able to move around with their family and their kids. They want to age as gracefully as possible, but they're not trying to be record-breaking powerlifters. They're not necessarily wanting to get on stage wearing a Speedo and fake tanner, so it's important to make sure that my goals are not their goals, right? I mean, the stuff I'm interested in doing is probably way beyond what the average person is interested in doing. And so the stuff that I tend to share the most is stuff that I think meets people in the middle in a way where it's accessible, it's affordable, it's convenient, and it gives them about 80% of everything they could probably look for in a fitness program. The other 20% becomes something you start to chase over the course of your lifetime. After about 16 weeks, unless you are super obese, most people can get to their ideal body weight. So what happens from there? You want to just maintain that? Well, you can do that, but the journey then is to spend the rest of your life building muscle, trying different things, building upon that initial success. And that's also what gets tough too, is because the results start to become very, very insignificant, or at least on the scale of what was initially if you're fat and you lose a lot of weight, it's wow, great before and after. But then people have no appreciation for how long it takes to build muscle. It takes a good 3 to 5 years to build the amount of muscle that is truly noticeable and that you own, that becomes part of almost your new DNA, so to speak. But if I looked at that from month to month, it's you can barely see the changes, so you really got to be into it. It's really just a crazy space, man.
So how would somebody start building that consistency? I mean, you mentioned there that you had been working out since you were 14. Some people go, they try it, a couple of sessions, they come back, they try again a couple of years later. How did you build that consistency? How did you get over that initial kind of, the DOMs, the pain, the struggles? How can somebody listen to this who wants to build a physique like yours start on that journey?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, man, I became addicted to it. When you're a 14-year-old kid who is trying to form an identity and has been underestimated, made fun of, and you found something that can literally change your body at a cellular level. The first time I worked out, I was sore for a week. My football coach taught me how to do the main 4 lifts that were part of my high school football program, which was the clean, the squat, the deadlift, the bench press. And I felt parts of my body I didn't even know were there, muscles I never knew I had. And it really lit a fire in me that wow, I can actually change everything about myself on an exterior level that could allow people to see what's actually inside of me. And it's really, that's why when, people say never judge a book by its cover. When I share my before picture, at my worst around 17, where everything was going against me at that. It was an awkward phase. I was overweight. It was just brutal. I was at my heaviest. And it's like that person genetically is the exact same person that people see today, but the way they treat me today versus the way that I was treated then, that really truly shows the power of what fitness can do for someone's life. Because there's so many people being underestimated, not given opportunities because of the way they look. And whether that's, fair or not, perception is reality. And so for me, I was addicted to finding a way for people to, respect me and give me the time of day. And, I actually liked the soreness, like it was, that you could put in X amount of effort and get X amount back, whether the weights were going up or my biceps were getting bigger, or I could, tackle someone even harder. Like that was huge for me. So it became like part of my DNA. So in terms of being consistent, again, like you have, what's your why? That's important. Like at that time, the why for me was I wanted to play college football, and then from there it was I want to inspire other people to see the benefits I've experienced from fitness. Because had I not gotten fit and lost that weight and been able to play well enough, football, I would not have been able to go to Amherst College. And then I met my wife at Amherst College. Like, so if I maybe stayed fat and didn't play football as well as I did, I would never have met my wife. And so we're talking about these small things that like end up making a huge difference in the trajectory of your life. So I've always had a why. And then when you're in it as a career, like no one's going to listen to what I have to say if I'm fat, or I don't know how to show the movements properly, or I don't, have a look that might inspire people to get better. So there's always been kind of a built-in accountability for me. I have a home gym with everything. Right as we're recording this, man, like I am 5 yards away from starting my workout. Like I set this up in a way where there are no excuses. And so, not everybody has that ability, because fitness isn't their career and they have kids and they have a very busy job. So their why is probably different than mine. Maybe it's to keep the spark between their significant other, or, it's to just, feel good about themselves when they're doing a presentation at work, or they're, with other people, they have the confidence to speak well. And, so the why is tough, man. Like it's hard for me to help someone find the why. I try to share information as freely as possible for people that have found the why and are looking for the best way to, answer that question and get better. But trying to give, like when people ask me, like, I need your help getting motivated, it's like, I can't help you. Like that is something that is the ultimate disconnect with fitness. Like everybody wants to be rich and they want to be fit, but very few people want to do the work that it takes to do both things, right? So, getting motivated to do that stuff, like that's something that I think a lot of people say they can help you with, but that is something completely inside of your mind and your heart and your soul, and you've got to figure that out first.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? It's like how many people can really say they wanted something when they just start and stop. I think it kind of shows them really like their real why. That if you go and start the gym and you're just not enjoying it, then you should just stop and do something else. I mean, so say somebody listening has a why. Maybe it's they've been bullied. I was bullied in primary school and it motivated me to get bigger. Maybe somebody's needing to be able to lift the grandkids, or the thousands of reasons. How do they start this? What's the best way to get the bang for their buck? Should they look to lose some weight, to lean out? Should we be looking at just strength, just just building up a bit more fitness in your daily life? Is there a kind of general philosophy that you follow?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about low-hanging fruit, right? The most important things for someone who's looking to start is to really just establish a sustainable baseline level of activity. Most of us, like we're sitting down right now recording this. Even if you're standing, you're not doing a lot of movement. We're spending most of our days at a desk, or we're traveling a lot and commuting, and we're seated. We're off our feet. We're not doing a lot of stuff. All the baseline activity that used to be built into our old jobs, manual labor and outdoor activities and stuff like that is gone. So for me, it always starts with trying to build up to about 30 to 60 minutes a day of just non-exercise related activity. For me, it's walking the dogs. I try to get at least 2 to 4 dog walking sessions in throughout the day. I try to, instead of doing like one longer walk, the research actually shows it to be better to do them, shorter, more frequent walks. Because again, what will happen, the more you spend in any certain position, like sitting, the more your body starts to adapt and form into those shapes, which is bad. It's a flex, rounded position. The hips tighten up, the spine, rounds out, your posture goes to hell. So for me, that is something that happens no matter what. No matter what. That's the no matter what movement. On days when I don't do any sort of intense training, there's always at least some of that, and then also some basic mobility work. So I call it hashtag Netflix and stretch. Stuff you can do while watching TV, at night or during commercials. That just makes you feel better. Because really, the problem, most people, they want to move. They want to do it. Like, there's a reason why, those training montages in Rocky are so popular. Like, people want to be like Rocky, doing the one-arm push-ups and the log lunges and all that stuff. They want it, but oftentimes they don't know where to start, or that they have pain, or they're overweight. And the low-hanging fruit is the best place to start because, people make fun of walking, and I used to be that guy too, like walking can't do anything for you. You got to do intervals, and you got to do heavy resistance training. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, what are we most likely hoping to be able to do until the day we die? Walk. Squatting may not be in the picture for all of us in our 80s and 90s, though obviously we have to get out of a chair and that type of thing, so it's a foundational movement. But being able to walk is critical for the human species. So, yes, it does kind of start with that, because you start walking, you start feeling better. You will definitely, your body will respond to anything you haven't done before. So it's that like magic time when you're a beginner that no matter what you do, you're going to see some improvement. And then it's stuff you can build upon. And then you start doing mobility work. You start stretching your hip flexors and opening up your chest. And like, wow, like it doesn't hurt as much to move around. So I want to move more. And then you start looking at your diet and you start getting, from a dietary standpoint, it really, my plan is as simple as it can be. Don't even worry about necessarily cutting things out. Just make sure at your meals, mostly protein and produce is on your plate. Just by doing that, people immediately see benefits in terms of fat loss, energy improvement, muscle gain. Even without resistance training, if you increase your protein intake, you can build muscle. They've shown that with bedridden patients. So there's all this low-hanging fruit, right, that we can start incorporating. And then you get to the point where, I'm walking at least an hour every day throughout the day, some sort of stretching mobility work, maybe 5 to 20 minutes a day. And I'm eating well about 80% of the time. I've got this foundation I can now build upon for the rest of my life.
I mean, and that's why I love your stuff, is that there's so much there that you don't need to have a gym. You don't need to have access to state-of-the-art equipment. You've got the bodyweight stuff. You've got the next, the stretching while watching Netflix. And there's really is something for everybody, no matter what you're into. But can you define, how can we know somebody's fit? Is there such a thing as baseline activities that everybody should do, or is that just too hard to do because of so many different goals and challenges that people want?
Well, number one thing is, the most important thing I think for people is work capacity. When I was out of shape, it's so funny. Like I would always hit my lifting sessions, but I would take the elevator instead of the staircase. I'd park right as close to a building as I could. And the thought of like a 10-minute walk that my dad always used to try to get me out of the house, away from the video games. He's an immigrant from Tunisia who, at 10 years old, became the breadwinner for his family when his father passed away, found a way to get to this country, became a successful engineer, and has allowed me to pursue this American dream. Like I literally, I work from home. I do what I love. It's all built on his sacrifice. And for him, one of the most enjoyable things was just going for a family walk. And I hated walking so much because it walking to me was exerting. It was a like if a walk is not something you enjoy because you're that out of shape, that's a big red flag, right? Like for now, walking is one of my favorite things to do. Like I think about my whole day. I plan my whole day. I get creative on my walks, listen to podcasts or music, with my dogs, and it's a special thing I do with my dogs and my wife. Post-meal walks we do, digestion walks we call them, and it just becomes part of your day. You can talk, but that was never like activity has become part of my culture. My culture before was TV and video games. So like if you get winded going up the stairs, like that's a problem. So there's certain things like activity isn't enjoyable when you're overweight and you're in pain. So everything that you need to be focused on is finding ways to get to the point where just basic activity is leisure. It's not work, right? It might start, like walking might start as work, but the goal is to get to the point where walking is a relaxation thing. You don't think twice about going to do something because something hurts or you're going to get too tired to do it. There's no quality of life with that. So to me, really, like it's about just first improving quality of life. And you do that by helping people get out of pain with lower intensity stuff. Like the problem that happens with fitness is the 0 to 100 mentality. It is totally black or white. Like people will have been at this point, like by the time the new year hits, holidays, all that shit, they haven't probably worked out in a couple months. They've gained 5 to 10 pounds from bad eating habits and travel and all that other stuff. And now they want to try to do a workout that someone like, I do, plyo push-ups and jump squats and there's just no way it's sustainable. You're going to burn out. You're going to get hurt. And then you're always going to have a negative association with fitness. It's going to be punishment versus what it really is meant to be, which is improve your quality of life. So, that's a tough thing to get. Like what people are looking for from a good workout, unfortunately, is you got to be sweaty, sore, and tired. If they're not sore the next day, they don't think you're a good trainer. They don't think the workout was hard enough. It's almost like they have this association with you have to punish me. I need to punish myself for the glutton that I was over the holidays versus, you know what? I'm never going to allow myself to do that again. I'm never going to ever the research is pretty clear on this. Like if that person just did a single strength workout a week for the last 6 weeks of the year, they will at least maintain their strength. That's like a 10 to 20 minute workout once a week will at least maintain your strength. Just planning out a couple of what I call these fuck it meals. Like people call them cheat meals. I say fuck it because that's like literally what I say in my head when I have them. If you just plan them out, like okay, I'll give myself 1 or 2 a week, but then I'm just going to be really good the other times versus like you have a shitty meal on Monday and the whole week goes to hell. You never have to be in the situation where you're starting over again. So, that's my life's work, man. It's like I've got all these people that look to me at thedailybj.com, my membership site where, I'm sharing workouts and meal plans and podcasts and all this stuff, just trying to get them into this same mindset where you never flip the switch off. The switch might be dimmed. Like right now we're doing what's called 12 days of fitness, which means instead of people being, because I knew what was going to happen. We've done a lot of more intensive programs throughout the year when but now it's busy. It's the end of the year. People are traveling. They need some time away from work and working out, frankly. There's times where you do want to dim the switch a bit. So I simplified it for them. Look, let's not go crazy with our workouts this month, but I want you to get these 12 days of fitness done. 12 total workouts, as little as 12 minutes, as long as an hour, based on how you're feeling that day or how much time you have. And you will maintain all of the results you've gotten from this year and then feel really ready to get after it in the new year without having to restart anything. In fact, that rest might actually help them hit it even harder in January. So instead of worrying about flipping the switch on and off, know how to, dim the switch a little bit, dim the lights, and then when you want the light to go all the way up, you only have to flip it from a higher position, right? So that mindset is really tough to get through people's heads. But once you get there, man, it's amazing. It's amazing. So hard to build muscle and get results. It's a lot easier to maintain it. And if people never get in a situation where they lose the gains they've made, that's where the consistency is truly the difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really like that mindset because I used to go down and then have to come way back up, but now I kind of just generally keep fit. Like we share a lot of sort of parallels because I was lifting really heavy. I had a nice deadlift, a good squat, and that, and then I've started like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was getting out of breath in the warm-up because I wasn't, I was getting high blood pressure when I was getting a test in the hospital because I wasn't doing any cardio. I was going up like an elevator rather than doing the stairs. And I think I kind of forgot that side of things. So, how can we, like, is there somebody listening to this, should they be able to walk 4 flights of stairs, or, how can you tell somebody's got a problem?
If you get sore from walking for 30 minutes, that's a problem. If you have regular joint pain, that's a problem. If you're carrying more than 20 pounds of excess weight, particularly in the middle of your body, midsection area, you're at great risk for health issues, especially as you get older. So, those are some big red flags. And in terms of, the things that boiling fitness down to the simplest of movements, we need to be able to do some form of squatting. We need to do some form of pushing, push-ups, dips, presses, some sort of pulling, pull-ups, rows, some sort of movement that's primarily through the hips, like a hip hinge or a hip thrust, and then you look at things like some, other things like core work and stuff like that. But, really it's push, pull, hinge, squat, and then carry. Could be, a guy like Dan John, a famous fitness expert, kind of broke fitness down into those 5 things. It's a great way to look at it. Like, you can build a circuit off of that. Like, fitness can be as simple for you as 1 minute you do one move, the next minute you do another, and there's 5 minutes there, 5 movements. That's a 5-minute circuit. And then you could do that up to 6 times for a 30-minute workout. Even, 2 or 3 times, 10 to 15 minutes is plenty for most people. But you hit all the key movements of your body, and all this stuff, by the way, you could do at home. I could squat for a minute. I could do push-ups for a minute, or a plank hold for a minute if the push-ups are too hard. I could do, a side plank or a lunge, a step up. I mean, these simple, basic, it all starts with your body weight, by the way. I wrote a book called Your Body is Your Barbell because, and again, it talks about like the foundation, right? Like for me, the mistake that was made is my foundation was barbell work. And I was bench pressing and I couldn't do a fucking push-up. Like, how ridiculous is that? Like, one of my buddies, Jeremy Scott, a fellow fitness expert, has a rule in his gym. Like, if you can't bench press 130, if you can't do, what does he say? If you can't do 10 push-ups, you can't bench press. I believe that's the rule. But so it all starts with your body. And part of the reason I had all these injuries are that when you focus first on loaded movements without a body weight foundation, you tend to not develop full range of motion and stability through your body. And you may start making shortcuts to just get better at that specific lift. Like the squat, bench, and deadlift are 3 great movements, right? They work most of your entire body. If you got those lifts up over time, you're going to get stronger. And as long as your diet was pretty good, you'd probably get leaner too. You get more overall performance, all that stuff. But you're so locked into those movement patterns that you're opening yourself up to a lot of injury. And again, when you're chasing load, injury almost always follows. There's a reason why. I mean, powerlifters never really choose to end their careers. It's chosen for them because they have to get their hips, knees, and shoulders replaced. And they're open and honest about that. They love the sport. They know that it's going to cost them quality of life down the road. But that's why it's crazy for me when general fitness people are worrying about Olympic lifting or powerlifting or just do goblet squats. Just hold the dumbbell in front of your chest, sit to a box, and do 10 to 20 reps. You'll have little to no impact on your joints. It's this type of squat anybody can do. You could do it at home when you travel. So for me, it always starts with movements that you can do forever. A barbell squat requires a barbell and a power rack. That is automatically something that becomes out of reach for like 80% of the people in the world. Like you and me, it's like, you can go to a gym or just get a rack in your house. Like people aren't thinking about that. So But everybody has a couch that they can sit down onto and stand back up. And that's the best way to learn how to squat. So that's how I like to approach it, as you start with the foundation of being able to use your body with maybe a pair of dumbbells. And then what happens, is you get some success with that. Oh, you add a new piece. Oh, I'm going to get a pull-up bar. Or I'm going to get, a kettlebell now. Or I'm going to get some bands. So when I travel, I can put them in my bag and do some quick band workouts. So once you see a little success and becomes more of a priority, you start digging deeper, the value of fitness goes way up. So now you're willing to spend more time, more money, more resources. It becomes a bigger part of your life. And most people never get to that point because they're given stuff that either they can't do because it's way beyond where they currently are from a fitness level standpoint or access standpoint or price standpoint. And, again, another big disconnect there is starting with things that you see other people do and you think you have to do them. Like, you don't have to, just because Arnold did back squats doesn't mean you do, and I think that's a big thing to overcome. But so I love all the moves that I'm all about are low impact, high return stuff that technically you should be able to do for the rest of your life, with very few excuses around them, so that, you can be consistent with it. Where some people will like, they'll be traveling for 2 weeks and they'll have no gym access. So they'll say, okay, I'll just take the time off because I have no squat rack, and then I'll just come back and start over again. It's like, no, you could have done lunges, step ups, Bulgarian split squats, squat jumps. You could have done hill sprints. Like, there are so many things you could have done that actually could have improved your fitness over those 2 weeks. But because you're so locked into this particular movement that requires all this equipment, you're just going to stop. So that mindset is tough to break.
Yeah, because you see that with people who are coming, like the New Year resolutioners. They'll come in, they'll want to get fit, and they'll see, oh, look at all those guys squatting, so I've got to do that. But they don't know how to squat. They copy guys to think, oh, I've got to be doing that kind of weight. Oh, I've got to do that because they're doing that. How can people who are, just follow this kind of general advice, keep it simple, stupid kind of approach? How can we stop comparing ourselves to the other guys, stop caring about what other people are doing, especially the self-conscious people who are maybe a bit extra weight, who are out of breath every 5 minutes? How can we get out of our heads and focus on our own shit and our own transformation?
Well, again, I'm very introverted. Some would call me antisocial. I'm definitely an antisocial exerciser. So I'm a huge advocate of training at home for a lot of reasons. I've always hated training in a public space because my personality is competitive. So I would always do stupid shit just to keep up with my friends and my buddies. And, I put way too much weight in the bar because I wanted to beat the next guy, the guy that was next to me. And so the big shift happened for me when I said I was a fan of Michael Jackson. The Man in the Mirror mentality, one of his best songs ever. Okay. And that, just putting your blinders on, nothing else matters except you. Nothing. I was lucky to be on the cover of Men's Health magazine in January of this year, and I have that image up on the board, not because it was a big goal. I'm proud of it. Yes. Some would say, oh, he's a douchebag. He has a picture of himself on the wall. Fine. Okay, if you think I'm a douchebag. But for me, it's just a reminder of why I'm doing this. I'm doing that to kick that person's ass, to beat him. I'm beating BJ yesterday. Whoever he was yesterday, I'm trying to get a little bit better today. And every single day, I snowball that little bit better approach. And it's so amazing what happens. Like, as I've gone from 25 to 30 to 35, I've managed to improve with age because I get smarter with my training. And I've kept the focus exactly where it needs to be, is what's best for BJ. For Ian, it's what's best for Ian. Even if I'm doing something different than you, it doesn't matter because, it's so funny. I almost feel like I'm cheating at this point in my life because I found movements that give me better results without as much pain or recovery time. And while I see other people still doing making the workouts way harder on themselves than they have to be, causing pain, getting to the point where the hardest thing they're doing in a given day is their workout. Like that says something too, where like if you're getting anxiety around exercise every single day, I mean, that's the last fucking thing you want from a fitness program. Unless you are a professional exerciser, there should be no anxiety from your workout. It should be, you might not always want to do it. You might have lower days of motivation. Absolutely. You're going to have shitty workouts, but it shouldn't be the biggest cause of stress in your life. I mean, it is a stress, so we've got to find the right amount of stress to give you, the minimum effective dose, so that's always what I've been chasing is how can I share with people the smallest amount they have to do to get the result they're looking for so they can be consistent with it and be motivated to keep coming back and improving upon that. And, it's going to be a lifelong challenge. I mean, I'm doing the best I can, finding new ways to keep people in the game. But I know that was kind of a big, tangent on the whole thing here, but, I lost my train of thought because I went so far away from probably what you originally asked.
No, I mean, you do very detailed, inspiring and encouraging videos. So you've mentioned that, you're quite introverted and we're probably the same kind of mindset, but how do you keep doing keep doing the videos and being so comfortable in the camera? Is it because the passion and the intensity that you have for fitness? How can somebody in a similar position who's feeling a bit introverted but would like to make, say, a YouTube video of this or put themselves out there, how can they become more confident in front of an audience?
Well, that's now I remember where I was going before I lost my train of thought. The whole man in the mirror thing, right? Like the reason I exercise, I don't like training with anybody because it's like, what's the benefit of me doing this? Like, I like a lot of people in fitness, like whenever I visit their area, they're like, let's get a workout together. I'm like, that's the last fucking thing I want to do. Like maybe let's go hang out for coffee or, get a bite to eat together. But like, what is the purpose of me doing this single workout with you today? We're not going to train together on a regular basis. I've got different needs than you do. And I'm not trying to compete. I don't want to, honestly, like all the injuries I had were revolved around competition. It was like trying to reach this amount of weight in 6 weeks. These predetermined deadlines that, that I let used to control my life. Like people in competitive environments are the ones with the most injuries because they are constantly sacrificing the long term for the short term. And when I got out of that mindset of competing with other people or these predetermined deadlines, like I go on timelines now. Like if I want to accomplish something, I have an idea of what I want to do and I pursue it with, to the best of my ability, the sets, reps, whatever programming to help me get there. But if I don't get there on March 13th, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm certainly not going to let myself get hurt to hit March 13th because what's the point of hitting a goal when you're injured? So it all comes back to that man in the mirror approach. And when you train at home, beyond the fact that like we know the studies show that if you have to go more than 5 minutes from where you live or work to exercise, the chances of you doing that exercise has been dramatically shortened. Like it has to be, like you said, the stupid simple approach. You have to put yourself in a situation where it's almost impossible to miss and that you're never going to get sidetracked with what's important to you. Because when you start going to the gym and you see what that dude's doing, this guy's got the best biceps I've ever seen. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, and you start looking at him and comparing yourself to him. That's the thing. Like I can go on Instagram today, man. I've been, I think I'm pretty fit and I've been consistent for a long time, but I can go on Instagram right now after we finish recording this and find within a minute 20 people better looking than me, more fit than me, bigger, stronger, whatever, faster, and I can get super depressed about it. Or I can look at the fat guy that I used to be and reflect upon all the changes I've made up until this point, the impact I've had around the world sharing fitness with people, and then I can be proud of that. So I think whether it's fitness, career, relationships, always looking at the prettier guy or gal or the richer, dude or the person with more resources. And then I still have to remind myself of this every once in a while, because I'll go on Instagram, like, how did that person get that many likes? And what I just shared is way more valuable, and people barely saw it. And it's like, again, reminding me of what the mission is. And the mission is, it's not necessarily to reach as many people as possible. I love to do that, but it's to profoundly impact as many people as possible. So, and in the same regard, how do you build the confidence in your workouts? You start ground zero. You know what I mean? Like I said, the walking, the mobility, cleaning up the diet, getting rid of liquid calories, and, still having flexibility, but just putting, a time frame or a cap on that level of flexibility. These small things we can do, starting with a 10-minute workout at home using just your body weight. And then it's amazing what happens. Like, the problem, man, people want to make a change. They want to start fresh for the new year. They're overweight. They don't even know what clothes to wear to the gym. Like, that's like a whole, like, that's the thing. Like, what do I wear to the gym? Like, do I wear this big shirt to hide myself? So there's anxiety just around showing up. Just getting to the gym for some people becomes more than the workout. It becomes a bigger challenge than just the workout. So put yourself in a position where you can focus on you, not compare yourself to other people. And again, I'm not trying to, like, shut down gyms around the world or get people to become hermits, but I'm a huge fan. I like all the people I know. I'm just telling you right now, all the people that I know that are fit and have been fit for a long time have created a lifestyle that makes it hard not to be fit. They only have good stuff in the house. They have the ability to train at home if they absolutely need to or they want to. They're just set up so that all the excuses that can happen for us have been minimized in some way. And so, man, it's a daily challenge. Like, how do you not, like, you do this podcast, right? It's like you see other people that have maybe a bigger podcast following, and it's like you could get really upset about the fact that they have more of a reach, or, it's like you and I get to chat today about stuff that we love, and there are going to be people listening to this that are going to be impacted, hopefully in a positive way. And, mindset is pretty big.
When you were the fitness director for Men's Health, how did you make sure that you're moving that brand towards the transformation for people? That the advice they were given was great. Did you look at, like, fitness around the world? Did you see a kind of a culture shift, or, how did you make sure that the advice you were given was applicable to all people from all kind of religions, setups, goals, ambitions, etc.?
Well, my background, when I used to train people in corporate settings, boot camp settings, personal training, I had such a diverse amount of clientele, all walks of life, all fitness levels. So I was forced very early on to learn how to scale exercises and workouts so that, again, like, you'd come into one of my classes and there'd be someone who is morbidly obese and someone who has a six-pack. We're all doing the same workout, and that person is working just as hard. The obese in the six-pack, relatively working just as hard, but just doing either a different movement or something that's, based entirely on where they're at. And that to me was like, that really is where fitness becomes like just an amazing unifier. And like, you can share that experience with someone at the completely opposite side of the spectrum if the workout is designed properly. So I came in with that background. I was a fan of the magazine since I was a teenager. I always wanted to be on the cover. That was a 17-year goal that I achieved. Some could say, like, Jesus, it took you that long. And I'm like, yeah, it did, to achieve that goal. But the biggest thing, I have access to analytics too. I could literally see, the moment that we used a kettlebell instead of a dumbbell, 50% less people will be interested in doing that workout. So you start learning all that. And again, it's always coming down to sharing something that is as accessible as possible. Really the biggest thing that changed for me is I stopped worrying about what other trainers thought about my workouts. And I started really focusing on how is this going to instantly help someone get better. And maybe that got me more, insults or whatever from other trainers or the work. This is nothing new here, or this is basic bullshit. But more people around the world were actually being able now to access the programs because it met them where they were at. it might be simple for someone like you and I who are really fit, and I've been doing this for a long time. But what I found at Men's Health, man, is like people are still learning like about the push-up. They're not past the push-up yet. So why are we doing, why are we trying to push like the 6-set chest shock German volume routine when they're really like just trying to figure out how to do the push-up? So that was a big shift. And so, I think early on, whether you're in fitness, whatever career you're in, it's very easy to get focused on trying to like prove yourself to your peers more than actually delivering to the customer or the user. And that's a huge mistake. And obviously the younger you are, the less you know too, the more you want to like show fancy movements, or like, I made a joke about this recently, like early on in my career, it was all about trying to create, quote unquote, create, because you can't really create a new exercise. It's all been done at this point, but create a new exercise that would get people who didn't like to exercise to keep coming back. And now at kind of the I don't give a shit phase of my career, I'm just trying to get as many people as possible who like to exercise to master the basics. And that's a big shift. And it might come at the expense of me not getting as many likes or shares on Instagram, or having, the mass appeal of some of the truly household names we know in this space. But at least I know the people that I am impacting, I'm doing it in a very deep way, and I'm giving them a foundation they can build upon. So, that's a big mindset shift. And, the time at Men's Health definitely helped me figure out, and I still have to remind myself sometime, like, that maybe this, because you never know, like sometimes I'll post something that I think will do terrible and it does well. And I'm just reminded again how important it is to try to stay in touch and remember that there are a lot of other people on the other side, and they're not me, but I used to be them, and try to get in their mind and think about how they'll perceive what I'm sharing. So, it's fascinating, man. Like, you never know like what people are going to like. You'll get shocked sometimes with what they don't like. Sometimes I think something will kill and it tanks. But again, that whole consistency comes down to, the consistency in fitness is my consistency with everything else. Like, because I'm going to be sharing more consistently than anybody else, or at least as much as anybody else, that's how I can stay relevant and learn. And where most people just, you want to be someone who reaches a lot of people, you got to share stuff every single day. And most people don't know how to do that, or are unwilling to make that sacrifice. It's a lot of work. I mean, I don't know how many podcasts you do a week, but even a single weekly episode of a podcast, people will start a podcast and they're like, oh, it's easy. I'll just do one a week. And it's like, okay, let's see how long that lasts. Like, so I have such respect for you just for being able to have a regular podcast, because I do one as well. And people tend to overlook how hard it is to do a good one and do one on a consistent basis. And so consistency, man, it transcends everything.
I mean, that's why I think you do so well, is because you're not just scratching the surface. You're not just scratching the itch. You're actually finding out what's wrong. You're finding the emotional pain, and you're helping drive them out through it. So where does your creativity come from? I mean, I've noticed you've made some amazing products, especially for Men's Health. You've done some viral videos. Every time I click on to one of your social media, you have a new video out, follow along exercise, or you've got another product on the go. How do you keep this going? Because you're the brand, you're the face. When it's you as the brand, how do you keep being creative and bringing people back and encouraging them? Can you go into a little bit about your mindset for like the business side of it? How did you find the change from coach to, running your own gig?
Well, you know what? A lot of it is in my DNA. Like I have been, and these are other people's words about me, that I'm a lone wolf and that, always beats to his own drum. This is just stuff that people have said about me over the years. And so I've always been very independent. I hate getting help from other people at a negative expense sometimes too, where like I could probably use some advice. I mean, I have, here's the thing, like I don't like unsolicited advice. The quickest way to like get on my bad side is to give me, unsolicited feedback or advice. Because again, like at this point in my life, I know all the people, and I know of the people that I would probably want to ask advice for on a particular topic. So if I need the advice, I will ask it. But I hate it. Just like, again, we've all got our own character flaws. For me, I don't take feedback well unless I ask for it. And even if I ask for it sometimes, like my wife makes jokes about how I ask her something, she gives me the feedback, and then I end up doing the exact opposite of what she said. So I think that happens a lot with family and friends. But, that is something that is definitely one side of it too. Also, like character flaws. Like I am very easily fatigued by other people. I knew the Men's Health gig was not going to last more than a couple of years because I just can't go into an office every single day and see the same people and not get sick of them. And it's not to say any bad thing about those people. It's just it takes a lot of energy. Like I can be social for a couple hours, and then after that, I've got to spend the rest of the day like laying on a couch, decompressing. So being a loner, being very independent, being easily fatigued by other people, you're forced to spend a lot of time on your own. I was also an only child up until about 12. I went to a very wealthy kind of private school on financial aid, but I was the only like kid there who wasn't like super wealthy, so I wasn't in those social circles. So I never got invited to things like birthday parties so I played by myself a lot, and you start having a lot of conversations with yourself, and this is becoming like almost like The Beautiful Mind in a way. But it's important. The background is important because I've chosen a path that not a lot of people will choose, which is like everything is on you. Like Men's Health was the only real job I ever had, like where I actually went to work somewhere. I have always made a living on my own, working from home, having my own business or businesses. And so it's very particular to my personality. It's not for everyone, and so, but it does inform, I think, a lot about what I'm like. And when you spend a lot of time with yourself, when you're comfortable with yourself alone, that's where a lot of the great ideas come from and the brainstorming. And so I'm also able to be laser focused. I've got no distractions, so those things are important. And again, it comes at the expense of being, I'm not as social as other people. And for me, it's become a positive because it gives me that, that focus and the drive. And a lot of people, like, they panic when they're by themselves. Like I'm most comfortable at home with my wife and my dogs, and I could go months without seeing anybody else and be absolutely fine. So I know I'm very different than a lot of other people.
We're very similar, actually. So how do you make sure you fit this in? Like you've got the business, you've got the dogs, you've got the social media empire, you've got the wife. How do you make sure that you have time for yourself, that you have a great relationship, that you do like whatever you need to in your daily, how do you build your daily schedule to make sure that you fit everything in, but still have the time for your wife, still have the time for your development and things like that?
Well, for most of our time together, we've been together for 15 years. We met in college. The moment we left college, she moved with me to Milwaukee, where I was born and raised, and we, have been together since. She's been involved in some way with my business. So we see, like, we both work from home. My wife is a writer, but she helps a lot with my business, and it's really our business. My business is hers. It's for the family, and she's been a big part of that. So we see each other a lot. If anything, we've got to find time for her to have her time, so that she doesn't go crazy just being around me all the time. So, and also the dogs are hugely advantageous on social media. Anytime I throw the dogs in a photo, it gets a way better response. So, but yeah, we love our nightly family time. Like one thing we try to do is after, 8 p.m. we shut things down and watch TV and hang out together and, snuggle with the boxers. And, so we kind of have that packaged in, so we can have some sort of disconnect from work, even though, because when you work from home, it's completely customizable schedule. So if anything, I can work on weekends if I want, and everything starts bleeding into, like, all these days bleed into one long day unless you really start structuring things appropriately. And especially during the winter, man, like we unless we get groceries or go out to eat, like, we won't even leave the house. So we've got to be cognizant of finding ways to get out of the house, out of the work environment, and then, shutting things down in a way where it's not just all work. But again, that's part of why it's important to do what you love if you can, or at least something that you're passionate about, because it's all work, right? It's all going to be hard. It's going to be less shitty if you at least enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say to people is fitness doesn't need to be a 3-hour thing. You can go, do something in the morning and then still have time for the kids, for, going out and doing stuff. You don't need to be working out every single day. You just need to build it into your schedule and, fit it in. And I think this is why people like your stuff so much. It's, it's short, it's sharp, it's impactful. Like I do an hour of jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. And I mean, I've just started doing gym sessions as well. And that's probably far more than I need to be doing. But just an hour in jiu-jitsu taught me how much flapping around 3 hours in the gym lifting weights actually is. You're not pushing yourself nearly as much as they think they are, these guys who spend 5 hours in the gym. It's a mindset I think we need to come away with, to avoid the mirror muscles only, to avoid only training the body because we walk enough. We don't need to do legs because we do a lot of walking. I hate these kind of myths that just won't die. I know we've been talking for over an hour, so I've just noticed that I've got so many more questions, but what do you want everyone listening to this interview to take from it? What would you like the go-home message to be?
Number one, when you are evaluating anything related to your fitness or an exercise or workout program, the first question you must ask, is it sustainable? Because if it's not sustainable, it's questionable, right? If you know that you can't work out for 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week, for the rest of your life, why would you start doing that in January? You're setting yourself up for failure. So if you want to set yourself up for success, find the minimum effective dose you can sustain with. If it's 10 minutes, if it's 15 minutes, start there and then sustain it. Prove to yourself it becomes part of your life. You can always add time, but it's very hard to take away time. It's just one of those things. Like, you can always, it's the exact opposite of pricing. Like, you could always lower your price, right? I mean, no one's ever going to say anything bad about that, but it's very difficult to raise your price. Once people are used to doing like an hour workout a day, they can't possibly get the same benefits in 10 minutes in their mind. When we know the research shows that the most important thing if you want to change your body at a cellular level, it's intensity. I mean, there was a study done where they took a 10-minute circuit, and one group did that circuit one time for a 10-minute workout. The other group did that workout 3 times for a 30-minute workout, but it was the same 10-exercise circuit. Obviously, the 30-minute group, they trained 3 times as long. They burned more overall calories. But the post-workout metabolic impact was identical between both sessions. 10 versus 30 minutes. Identical post-workout metabolic impact. So right there, I mean, we know this. Intensity is the most important thing. If the dose is intense enough, but not too intense, within 30 to 45 minutes, in most cases, you can get everything you want out of a fitness program and provide just enough stress, but not too much stress, so that it becomes something that is difficult to recover from, right? We want to stimulate, not annihilate. So fitness becomes it's way more accessible than people think, because it does not require 2-hour-plus marathon sessions. We know the research shows that anything past 45 minutes, not including maybe a warm-up and cool-down, but anything of like intensive training going beyond 45 minutes, at most an hour, is counterproductive. Not only diminishing returns, but it's going to make it more difficult for you to recover and get ready for the next session. So you're optimized. For most people are going to be optimized with, at least 2 to 3 30 to 45-minute workouts or less a week. That is like the sustainable sweet spot that anybody can continue to follow for the rest of their life. You might move to doing 4 or 5 workouts. You might bump that up to 60 minutes, whatever. But like at the same time, why would you want to? If you can get the results in 30-minute workouts and then just refine your program by, using more advanced movements or mixing things up when you need to, that is a sustainable way to approach it. If you don't want to be a marathon runner, don't try to do a marathon to lose weight. It's a terrible idea. Terrible idea. If you love running and you want to do a marathon, great. But if you're like, I'm going to sign up for a marathon, it's going to give me a reason to get in shape and lose weight. It's like, well, unless you plan on doing an endless number of marathons, it's a terrible approach because you can't do that amount of training for the rest of your life unless you're a marathoner. So again, it's going after that whole theme, man. It's like if it's not sustainable, it's questionable, and that applies to diet, to exercise, to everything that we're pursuing. And you can't be consistent with something if it's not sustainable.
Yeah, that's the thing is, why are they going to do it in January compared to December? Why wait till Monday when you could start on a Thursday? It's this BS that we tell ourselves. So if I was to ask you, like, this is the second last question, if I was to ask you for an unusual fact about yourself, I noticed that you have acres and acres of comments from people on YouTube videos, etc., saying how much you've helped them, how awesome they think you are and that, but what's an unusual fact about yourself that very few people would know?
Oh, it's interesting. I'm pretty much an open book. I mean, for the most part. I mean, actually, I think one thing people think, they think I work out all the time. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that you can actually film a video and then save it and post it later. Like they think that I'm literally working out all day. They'll say, I wish I could be like you and work out all day. It's like, no, I at most I would train for about an hour, and beyond the dog walking and the mobility work that gets peppered in here and there, I spend the rest of the day just like everybody else, doing work and building my business and spending time with my family and my wife and my dogs. And so, and I also am really a fat guy faking it as a fit guy. I could very easily go right back to the person I was before. I mean, again, I'm the same person, but different in a lot of ways, and I'm different through my experience in fitness. So I exercise so that when I lay down on the couch and binge watch Netflix, I'm not too guilty about it, or that I can have my my burgers and fries on Fridays for my fuck it meal. So I'm a lot more like the average person, as strange as I probably am, and as eccentric as some of the things that I've shared over the course of this podcast. There's a common humanity in all of us that, we'd all like to be lazier. We all enjoy being lazy and being gluttonous and, all that stuff. And just like you, I'm fighting those urges every single day. And I just so happen to have a little more accountability built in than the average person because, I can't get too fat. Otherwise, people won't look at the stuff that I'm sharing. So that's probably one fun fact. I love 90s R&B. I love TV and movies. Like, we try to watch something every night if possible. So, yeah, man, I'm probably a lot lazier than people think. I got to keep myself motivated and keep pushing myself to not let my inner laziness spill out.
So you've got your website and your podcast. There's literally so much value and gold there. How can people listening, find out more about you and keep in touch? Because I've barely scratched the surface of the kind of stuff I want to find out. I mean, I'm so intrigued in how you build your business, your creativity, how you're so good in the camera and stuff like that. So I definitely want to have you on again. But for those people who are really interested in finding out more about you, how can they keep in touch, see your projects, subscribe to your site, follow you on social media, that sort of thing?
Well, you can follow me everywhere on social media at BJ Gaddour, BJGADDOUR. My website is thedailybj.com. No, it is not blowjobs. I know that was everybody's thinking here, and obviously we're having fun. By the way, like, BJ is a nickname. My father's name is Brahim, which is Abraham in Arabic, and J is for Junior. So I'm the second. So it's Brahim Junior. But obviously no one knows how to say that, and it's kind of a weird sounding name. And there's parts of America that are not very receptive to a name like that. So I've always gone under BJ. And though the nickname I got the nickname in third grade without ever knowing the implications of what it would be like in high school and then growing up and having a career with the name BJ. But thedailybj.com is a way that I have fun with it. I know you're thinking about it. It's actually not blowjob, but even if it was, you're going to get the best workouts possible that you can do at home. It's also this is a funny side note too. It's $9.69 per month. So I tried to put as much sexual innuendo into it as possible. The slogan for the site is "Being fit is hard, suck it up." Instead of $9.99, I made it $9.69, so it had the sexual innuendo, but I get 30 cents less on every sale per month, just for the joke. So
I mean, that's why I love you, because I think it's, when I seen that, I thought, oh, just another fitness guy, but it was the swearing, it was the fuck it meals, it was the, you go to get like burger and chips as your cheap meals, that you've got the sex jokes, and, you take the mick out people who've been cheeky in comments and stuff like that. You're actually just a normal guy, and you're helping so many people. You should be like really proud of the work you're doing. It's just amazing to see how much you developed, and there's a lot of love out there for you. Is there anything that we should be looking out for? Any projects, any products coming out?
Well, one thing I'll add to that too, like, it's amazing, all the shit that we got growing up become huge assets to you down the road if you let them, right? I mean, like, being made fun, like, people would literally call me blowjob. I mean, high school was basically me being called blowjob, nonstop, people making jokes. And as humiliated as I was at the time, now it's become my brand. Like, it's almost like Eminem and 8 Mile. It's like, what else are you going to say about me at this point? I put it out there. I have fun with it. I own it. And all the stuff that has humbled us along the way become huge assets down the road if you let them. So all the failures we have become amazing teaching tools. Like, before I took the Men's Health job, I came off the biggest failure of my life. I had an online – I created the first online streaming fitness company called StreamFit in 2011. Nobody else was on market with a streaming fitness program at the time. It was almost – in reality, I may have came in too early with it because people were still consuming DVDs too much, and I didn't have as big of a following at the time, so it was harder for me to get as many people over to it. I didn't raise enough money. I was hoping to do it with less money than I raised, and I ended up needing more money in the process. But I had, in the process of that 4-year business, even though we had it was a 6-figure business, we had some success, but ultimately I couldn't scale it, and I wanted to sell it to a big publishing company, and I failed to do so. But in that 4-year failure, I acquired hundreds upon hundreds of hours of on-camera work. Like, you asked, like, how do you become, I was terrible on camera. Like, I was looking the other day at an interview I did at a local Milwaukee TV station. It was called The Morning Blend in Milwaukee, and my first time on TV, and I was so bad. I said absolutely like 38 times. Like, it was like my crutch when I didn't know what to say. I would say absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I was so low energy, and I didn't look at the camera, and I was mumbling. And so again, like, that failure for me of not being able to, of having to go to, investors, it's one thing to lose your own time and money. And we burned through all our savings to keep that business afloat. I was unsalaried most of the time I was working that company. And, it's one thing to lose your time and money to go to people you respect that have backed you from just a concept and not be able to give them a return was devastating. Like, I went through a very serious depression for a period of time, and but with that came this Men's Health opportunity, which required someone who could do on-camera work, who was comfortable doing media, who had a lot of experience working with people in fitness, knew how to write, all this stuff, like all the shit you go through, being made fun of. And I acquired, like Liam Neeson, a certain set of skills that was perfect for that opportunity that was waiting for me that I had no idea would be coming. So, you know, that is something that I share because we all go through these times in our life where, you know, things never work out the way you want them to in a lot of ways. And like we talked about comparing yourself to others, comparing yourself to who you wanted to be. Like I used to I was serious. It's a joke now. I would tell people that I'm going to retire by the time I'm 35. And I'm 35 and I'm like just getting started. Like I was that naive that I thought I'd be so rich by the time I was 35 that I could stop working if I wanted to. And now I'm literally, I left Men's Health in June and I'm completely starting over again. So I'm humbled by that. Like that I actually said to someone out loud, I'm going to retire by the time I'm 35. And so, you know, if I wanted to beat myself up about the fact that I didn't hit that goal, I could. At the same time, like I've been blessed in a lot of ways to only get opportunities that I was ready for. You know, I think the biggest gift someone can get is to only get opportunities that they're ready for. Because if you get an opportunity that you're not ready for, there definitely won't be other ones. Okay? And so that was a long way of saying, like, embrace who you are. You know, who knows what current failures or struggles you're going with right now that are going to set the stage for that next big opportunity. If you just keeping your eyes open for it, you allow yourself to, I mean, if you pour yourself into your work and what you enjoy doing, you know, you may not be the most wealthy or well-known person in the world, but I guarantee you, if you pour yourself into what you take pride into what you do, there will be so much available to you because the fact remains, like, if you just keep showing up, you will be the last person left in the room at some point. I promise you that. It's happened to me time and time again. The stubborn person that just keeps showing up after every time that they could have just quit or gone in a different direction, you know, and being able to handle all those obstacles and those disturbances that make people kind of question who they are and then jump ship and go on to the next thing. Like the stubborn refusal to keep going, to fail forward. You will be the only person left in the room. The opportunities will be there. It might take 17 years, right? I was just joking about the 17-year, you know, thing to get on the cover of Men's Health. I set that goal 17 years ago, and you know, there are all these goals I think about that I wanted to achieve. Like we're hoping to get to California. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, brutal winters, and then I went to school in Massachusetts, and now we live in Pennsylvania because that's where Men's Health is located. And finally, I'm at the point where we're going to be moving to California, hopefully in June of next year, so I can, you know, this is going to be like my last winter, and I'm so excited. I'm you know, hopefully nothing bad happens. I really want to get to California because I just want to be somewhere warm and really enjoy our life and be more active and everything else. But I think about that being a big goal for me, and I think about how one of the big things, I have something at the website we call, you know, or I share, like hashtag Steak Sundays. One of the biggest goals for me was just to get to the point through fitness where I could afford to have a really good piece of steak each week. It's these simple things like about quality of life that have meant the most to me. And any time in my life that I've let something like money become the most important factor, or something that isn't true to really inspiring and impacting other people and creating, you know, like the ultimate lifestyle for my family, like I can, if I want, I can go right now and my wife and I can watch, you know, some TV in bed on an afternoon if we want to, you know, and just to have that flexibility to me is more important than any sort of money I could ever get. So, you know, really being comfortable with yourself, knowing who you are, keep showing up. Amazing things can happen to you in this world. And we live in such an amazing time, man, where, you know, we can all connect and you can share your vision, your voice with as many people as possible, as many people really as you're willing to reach. Like, because it's hard, right? I mean, to get people to listen to you and take you seriously, but when you're true to what you're doing, you love it and you stick with it. I've talked about man in the mirror. I've talked about keep showing up. Keep showing up is that has to do with consistency, but more so just like it's just not being so flighty. When you really want to do something, it's not an option, right? I mean, it's not a choice, and so to me, it's like if you don't keep showing up, you're not serious about whatever you're doing, and it's time to find something that gets you to keep showing up, because no matter what it is, you'll have a lot more satisfaction with your life if it inspires you to keep showing up and keep pursuing it and keep becoming the best at it that you can be.
Because that's what I say to people is, there's no such thing as a bad thing. It's a learning experience, or you succeed. If you just keep going and going, you never know where it's going to lead you. It's like your pain and misery now can be used later in life, and I think this is the thing, is we dwell on the negative without looking at the positive and the opportunities from it. And you're doing amazing work from it. Have you got any products coming out lately?
We've got at the time we're recording this, like, we're doing a big thing for the new year called the Post-Holiday Shred, which is like a 12-week program that nutrition and workouts that will really help kind of get people a good jump start for the new year. But again, like the dailybj.com is a lifestyle site, so we give meal prep videos, podcasts. You're getting monthly workouts. It's the whole thing is not about a quick fix, but making it part of your life, and me just sharing how I do that. Like, it's me and my wife cooking in the kitchen, making fun of each other and getting sassy, and sharing the meals I eat, the workouts I do, but also having some fun along the way. And it's not so one-dimensional that it's all fitness. In terms of like stuff that's in the mix, there are definitely some projects that I'm working on that I probably shouldn't talk about until I know that they're actually going to happen, because as I'm sure, like when you're an entrepreneur and you're doing your own thing, like you have a lot of ideas, very few of them actually come to fruition, especially when they depend on some other people. You can't really determine what's happening there, but there definitely are some cool things I'm working on. The big thing though is we're trying to get to California, and if we want to start a family and set up the next phase of our life, we just want to find some roots. Because Pennsylvania for us is just a temporary stay, and looking forward to that warm weather, and I think that'll also hopefully inspire even more content out of me, because I'll probably be in better shape too, because obviously when it's snowing outside, I don't have to be shirtless as much, so I don't have to be as in good of shape. But in California, like I've got to be I'll probably be in the best shape of my life, hopefully.
I've got a heap of questions about how to raise healthy, strong, fit young men, about how to be a good father and stuff like that. So, that'll be the next. I'll have you back on for that. I really cannot thank you, and I've barely touched the surface, and I feel like there's so much more we could go into just now, but I'm really appreciative of your time. That's an hour and a half now, and it feels like 10 minutes, because it's such a joy to listen to you. I know this will have helped so many people, but I know that there's so much more we can cover, so I'd love to have you on again. The floor is open to you. If there's anything that you'd like to mention, anything you don't think we've covered, go ahead.
Well, before anybody passes out from listening, I probably don't have anything else to say at this point. Just that I'm grateful, man. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me anytime wants to listen to anything I have to say. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate your support, and I encourage you to keep, doing your thing, and keep this podcast going, and keep sharing good stuff with good people. And, I'm happy to come on anytime you need me.
Thank you. That really means a lot, for especially somebody that I look up to and admire for the quality of the stuff you're doing, and like how many lives you're changing. To think, that you can even pay attention to something like my podcast, it kind of blows me away. So it's been an absolute honour, and I'll be in touch soon with the links, etc. But I cannot thank you enough. You're a fantastic guy, and I wish you nothing but success for the future. Thank you very much to BJ there. That was some great advice and some concrete action steps that you can take no matter your starting point. I would just like to thank you as well, the listener. I hope you enjoy these podcasts and get something from them. If you've got 5 minutes spare, please go to iTunes and leave us a review. I thoroughly enjoy doing this, and every review helps to keep the motivation, the desire and the passion going. It also helps me attract future guests. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the nextlevelguy.com podcasts.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.